Hello, Dr. Vikki Petersen here. I wanted to talk to you today about a part of your body that tends to be very overlooked, especially in traditional medicine. If you follow me at all, you know I'm all about root cause medicine, functional medicine, and that means just that, getting to the underlying root cause of why you feel the way you feel. If you're tired, if you're anxious, if you have trouble sleeping, if you're gaining weight, your hormones are out of balance, you feel sore in your joints or muscles, you have allergies, you have asthma, issues with sleep, I said. What am I missing? Oh, your immune system isn't as strong as you want it to be. The list is really long, and when you appreciate all those things are potentially because of one little part of your body, it's kind of amazing. And why is that part of the body overlooked? Because it doesn't get diseased very often. And I'm talking about your adrenal glands. So it starts with an AD, and ad means above, and then renal, which means kidney. So right on top of your kidneys, you've got these two little walnut-sized glands that do a tremendous amount of work for you. And as I said, they're very often overlooked because they don't disease very often. There is a disease associated with adrenal glands, it just is rare. So doctors don't look for it very often. But what they're missing is the fact that when the adrenal glands are not functioning optimally, so realize on the spectrum, you could have optimal functioning here, you could have disease over here, and then there's this, you know, you don't jump from optimal to disease overnight, right? We're talking about degenerative type diseases. So if you're optimal here and disease is over here, and as I said, it's quite rare with the adrenal glands, so maybe even push it out further. What's that middle zone? What's it called when you've left optimal but you're not diseased yet? It's a period of malfunction, or better said, inflammation. And that's one thing I did leave out, is inflammation. So we know that inflammation is the root cause of most degenerative disease. And guess what? The adrenal glands have a lot to do with that because they make natural anti-inflammatories. These adrenal glands, and you know the word adrenaline, right? Even if you didn't know you had adrenal glands, you've heard that word adrenaline before. So now you know who makes the adrenaline. The adrenal glands are, I like to call them kissing cousins with your thyroid gland. So they're very related to the thyroid. They're also related to your reproductive organs, whether you're male or female. Yet when people start gaining weight and they're tired, what do they tend to do? They say, oh doc, check my thyroid. Why do they jump to thyroid? Because 17% or so of the U.S. population has thyroid disease. So we know about thyroid, right? And doctors can check for it, and they have drugs for it. It's interesting, the adrenal glands don't like drugs. They don't like surgery. They like a very natural approach. Now, once again, I'm not talking about them being diseased. I'm talking about them malfunctioning or being inflamed. And that happens very, very commonly. I was just part of a women's gluten-free summit, and I was talking about the adrenal glands, so the relationship with being anxious and fatigued, just being exhausted, you know, poor energy level, poor sleep, feeling achy, you know, all these various symptoms I went over a couple minutes ago. And, you know, it's such an integral part of what we do here at the clinic that sometimes I forget how much it's not known, you know. So that's why I want to talk to you today about it. So our adrenal glands, they are called our stress gland. They're more the anti-stress gland. When they're functioning well, they sort of prevent you from having a bad effect to stress. And boy, when they're tired, then, you know, that's when you feel terrible. So how do they fall into the spectrum of sort of what we do with root cause medicine? The adrenal glands, sometimes I liken them to the little engine that could, you know, it's making adrenaline, it's keeping you going and getting you through your day. So what does that little engine need? That little engine needs fuel, right? So where do you get your fuel from? From what you eat, of course. So the way that ties into gluten or other food sensitivities or just a bad diet, you know, traditional American diet, not so healthy, the way that ties in, of course, is that your food needs to turn into really good fuel to give those adrenal glands enough energy to do all the things that they do. And there's sort of a 2-page handout that I have of all the descriptions of what the adrenal glands do. And I'm gonna post a blog, and then you can see it visually instead of just hearing it orally. So anyway, they they do a lot, and as I mentioned, they're very tied into the thyroid and the reproductive organs. But where we like to start when we have these symptoms of adrenal fatigue is actually start in the gut, because of course you want that fuel coming in, right? Those adrenal glands, that adrenaline needs fuel in order to make the adrenaline and do all these things. So you want to make sure the person's on a good diet, their food is turning into really good fuel, and that's where, of course, we discovered gluten and dairy sensitivities, where people were eating things and the gut, the digestive tract was going, I can't do anything with this, this is a toxin. So of course food is not turning into good fuel at that point. And when that fuel line kind of diminishes, then the adrenals say, hey, where's my juice? You know, how am I going to make adrenaline? And they start getting stressed. So we start in the gut. Then when we get the gut handled, we do look to the adrenal glands before even the thyroid, because the adrenal glands are more primary, believe it or not, than the thyroid. But here in the U.S., what do? We tend to jump to the thyroid, sometimes put people on low-dose medication thyroid, even though they don't have a disease yet, but it's a little more subtle, you know? And so you're put on, you know, low-dose thyroid medication, and, you know, you're not feeling a lot better, or maybe you really do have a thyroid disease, and maybe the reason you have it is the adrenal glands are not functioning as well as they should, because they really balance each other out. What's so nice is when someone's on thyroid medication and then we support their adrenal glands and they start to need less thyroid medication because we're getting that balance. And then, of course, the adrenal glands make the sex hormones, and that leads to estrogen levels and testosterone levels, and so sometimes people have depression or fertility issues. That can be tied into the adrenal glands. And once again, the program is really natural, so I could actually talk about this for hours, and that would be too long. But what I wanted to do is just sort of open the conversation to what these adrenal glands do. And the way to improve them is to start with some basics of diet, some basic nutrition, really strong multiple vitamin, B vitamins. Sometimes licorice is very good. There's not like a perfect formula that you just ingest. The diet is most important, really, in finding out if there are any food sensitivities. So as I said, I'm going to do some follow-up on this, but I wanted to just open the conversation to what these adrenal glands do. So if you're in that category and suffering, you know there's hope and there's really a reason that maybe nobody's looked at, because once again, these adrenal glands don't disease very often. So I hope you found this informative, and please send me your questions. Until next time, I wish you very good health.